You're going to need to take these medications for the rest of your life. You're going to only have 5 to 10 years to live. And I would recommend you no longer drive because you could go into cardiac arrest at any point. Hi, I'm Brianne, and I'm here to talk about how I was diagnosed with dilated cardiomyopathy and congestive heart failure. The reason I wanted to share this story and make this channel was because when I was diagnosed, I couldn't find much information from a first-hand account. So I wanted to share this in case there's anybody else out there who's looking for information and hopefully can help you. It started in December of 2016. I started experiencing shortness of breath, and I assumed that it was part of a cold or something that I was getting, so I kind of ignored it. It continued to happen. I continued to be short of breath. I started coughing, and so I went to the doctor and they said that I had bronchitis. They gave me antibiotics and a cough suppressant. I was on that for a while, but it continued to persist and it also got worse. They then told me that I had adult asthma. So at this point, it's like beginning of March 2017, so it's been about 3 months since it started in December. It's continuing to get worse to the point where now if I just put my socks on in the morning, it feels like I've run a 5K. That's how bad the shortness of breath has gotten. I also was unable to eat at all because I was just nauseous all the time. At night, I was up all night throwing up, even though I hadn't eaten anything. And I also couldn't lay down flat in my bed because it made the breathing even worse. So I wasn't eating, sleeping, and I could barely breathe. And I did tell the doctor that I had the nausea and vomiting in addition to the shortness of breath, but they basically told me that, yeah, you do have asthma. All those other symptoms don't make sense, but it's just probably in your mind. I believed them because at that point, I was like, they're the doctors, they're the ones that know, right? And I didn't know what was going on. So it continued to get worse, and towards the end of March, I basically remember I had gotten maybe 2 hours of sleep every night. I was just completely exhausted. I was still working my 2 jobs. And I remember one night, my mom was in my room making sure that I was okay because I was again up and throwing up. I remember telling her that I think I'm dying. I'm either dying or I'm going completely insane because all these symptoms they tell me are made up in my head. I went to the doctor the next day and I sat down in the room and I said, I am dying and I need you to tell me why. I said, is it lung cancer? Is it this? And she basically looked at me like I was crazy and told me that I was too young to have any of those things because I was 24 at the time. I had just turned 24. It was like a couple days after my birthday. So they sent me down for a chest x-ray and it came back, and basically she noticed that my heart was more enlarged than it was on the first one we had done in January. She then referred me to a cardiologist to see the next day. I go into the cardiologist and they do an echo, which is an ultrasound of your heart. When the technician is doing the echo, they can't read it for you. They can't tell you anything about it. They basically just do it and then they give it to the cardiologist to read for you. Towards the end of my echo, the technician goes, do you have an appointment with the cardiologist? And I said, yeah, I have it right after this. And she said, good, because I wouldn't have let you leave this office without having seen him. And so as soon as she leaves the room, I turn to my mom and I say, I've seen enough Grey's Anatomy to know that that's not a good sign. And the cardiologist meets with us and basically sits down and tells me, I don't even know how you have walked into this office today. Your heart is functioning at 23% and you have dilated cardiomyopathy and congestive heart failure. You're going to need to take these medications for the rest of your life. You're going to only have 5 to 10 years to live. And I would recommend you no longer drive because you could go into cardiac arrest at any point. At that point, I just kind of was absorbing the information. He tells me normally I would send someone into hospital for this and have them taken care of there to get it all the medications and everything up to date before going home. But I think you'll be fine to take care of yourself at home. After a few days, I've been home, I'm getting worse. I then have to go into the hospital, and I was only supposed to stay 1 night, but I ended up staying for 3 days. While I was in hospital, the cardiologist visited me and he told me that I was going to have to wear an external defibrillator until they could get me into surgery to put one in. And they would also be putting me on the transplant list because I needed a new heart. So obviously there was so much going on. There was a lot of information. I was just excited to be able to breathe for the first time in 4 months. After about a month on medication, my percentage of my heart function went up from 23% to 32%. At that point, the cardiologist said, I'm really happy with that number, so we're just gonna basically stay here and hope for the best. I didn't like the answer. Again, I was only 24 years old at the time, and I'm like, I'm 24 and I have 5 to 10 years to live, and you're happy with half heart function? I don't agree with this. So I then started researching other cardiologists in my area. I made a list of about 4 of them, and I was gonna go to an appointment with each of them to determine who I wanted to see. If I'm gonna need lifelong care, I wanna be part of a team and have a cardiologist that I'm 100% comfortable with and confident in that's gonna be there for me. The first cardiologist that I saw, it just was a click automatically. So I didn't even go to the other 3. The first appointment, she told me, you're 24 years old, I don't accept these numbers, and I don't accept a 5 to 10 year diagnosis. She then told me that she was going to completely revamp all of my medications, up them, and that I would hate her for the next couple months because it would be miserable to transition into these new doses. And she was right. The next couple months were terrible. After a year with her, I was able to get my heart function up to normal. The only reason that it's there is because of the medication. So the medication is basically keeping me alive and keeping my heart functioning. Now, congestive heart failure and cardiomyopathy are progressive conditions. They're lifelong, and you take medications for them as long as you can until they eventually do not work. Then you go on to other options such as heart transplant. So I'm very aware of the fact that 5 to 10 years could be what I have, and it's been 3 years since I was diagnosed. I also know that heart transplant could be in my future. In the last 3 years, it's been a lot of emotions, figuring out how to take care of myself and get used to my new norm. It isn't, hey, my life's over, I can't do anything anymore. It's, yeah, I have limitations. Yeah, I have things I have to be concerned about, I have to think about, I have to plan ahead, but I can still do things. I can still travel the world, which I have done. And I just want to show people that if you have a chronic illness, there are ways to accommodate and to hopefully live the fullest life that you can. I know that was a long story, but I hope that you guys will subscribe and like. There will be more videos coming up. Thanks for watching.